As you continue your quest for power in Tactics Ogre Reborn, you may have begun hearing whispers, hushed tones talking about cursed weapons, strange dark artifacts found in the recesses of the earth that grant you unimaginable power for an unimaginable price. Perhaps during your journey through the Palace of the Dead, you found one such item, a cursed weapon that seems to have no stats, and the only effect it lists is the Snapdragon effect. Well, if you're wondering how these weapons work and why people say they're so powerful, watch on. Today, we're talking about cursed weapons and how you can make them as powerful as possible. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Leg Man, and we're back once again with another guide video for Tactics Ogre Reborn. I know it's been a little while, lots of things going on the channel, but there are still things that I want to cover here. If you are still interested in seeing things about Tactics Ogre Reborn, if there is still information that you are learning from me, or you're just enjoying seeing my Tactics Ogre content, please do subscribe and leave a like on the video. As you should know by now, I am working very hard to grow the channel, trying to hit 15k subs by the end of the year, and as this is my job, I need to work very hard to try and make those things happen so I could use all the help that I could get. So if you do that for me, that'd be great. Thank you. So cursed weapons. What are they and how do they work? Well, if you've gone into the Palace of the Dead, there is a very good chance that you have found one of these cursed weapons alongside the standard relic weapons that will more commonly be discovered in the palace. Relic weapons are your standard red or pink background weapon that typically have unique names with unique effects, randomly rolled stats, all that type of good stuff. Whereas cursed weapons have a purple background, have no name, and no stats, which is interesting, isn't it? So why are these weapons so powerful? Well, the key is that they require a sacrifice. While you may just be able to pick a relic weapon up off the ground, off of a random enemy that you defeat somewhere in the palace and immediately begin using it, potentially infuse extra copies of it into it to increase its power and make your own units more powerful, cursed weapons are not so easily satisfied before they will give you their power. You see, every cursed weapon comes with the Snapdragon effect. The Snapdragon effect, originally starting as a spell in the original PS1 Super Nintendo release of Tactics Ogre Reborn, allows the wielder to, well, sacrifice themselves and seal their heart and soul into the weapon. You might think that, well, it's a single target, so I can use this on someone else and snap them into my weapon, right? No, that's not how it works. You're going to give this weapon to one of your loyal members of your army. You're going to command them to read the inscription upon it, and you will watch in satisfaction as their heart, mind, and soul are torn screaming from their body and hurled into the black abyss that exists inside each of these weapons. And you will smile, for you know that you have gained another powerful weapon for your arsenal and taken another step down the road of darkness. As we all know we want to do, of course. So edgy jokes aside, what you'll be doing here is you'll be picking a generic unit out of your army that can wield the weapon that you are trying to turn into a cursed weapon that you are trying to complete, and you will go into the battlefield and you will then have them use the Snapdragon effect. They will be absorbed into the weapon, you will get a new weapon, and you're free to leave. You can do this in a training battle, no big deal. And when you leave the battle, you will have yourself a fancy new weapon. Now, why are these cursed weapons actually so powerful? Well, let's compare one of the two that I currently have, which is equipped to Knight Commander Ozma, the weapon known as Hoslow's End. If you're a fan of Elden Ring, this should be a familiar name to you, and this should be a tale that you know is told in blood, which seems appropriate for a cursed weapon. So, comparing it to my next best whip, the Relic Whip, Supple Whip, you can see going to equip the Supple Whip would tank Ozma's stats in every category. She would lose RT, health, MP, physical attack power, magical attack power, and literally every stat. Turns out sacrificing a life to empower your weapon does lead to a lot of power. Who would have thought? Comparing the two whips here, you can start to see what's going on. First of all, Hoslow's End has a weight of nothing. Not even zero, just nothing. There's no weight category on this weapon compared to the 8 weight of the supple whip. Cursed weapons have no weight. They are essentially like you're holding air, which in a game like Tactics Ogre, where speed is everything, should give you an idea of how powerful these are. Then, of course, we have lower RT on the whip as well, so you're losing less speed when you attack with it, on top of your base RT being higher. We have significantly higher crushing damage, 19 compared to the supple whip's 10. We have an elemental affinity bonus of 17 ice compared to the supple whip's none, and a human effectiveness bonus that is literally doubled. Pretty good. Pretty good. Then in terms of the actual stats of the weapon, you can see our attack is slightly lower, but we're getting defense, HP, and MP. No luck, but that's okay. And the actual stat bonus of the weapon is 9s across the board, except for a mind stat of 8. How did this weapon become so powerful, you might ask? Well, that's where we get into talking about how we actually make our cursed weapons and how you can efficiently optimize them. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to be recruiting a fresh face from the royal city of Heim. Remember, you're going to be sacrificing a loyal generic unit to make a cursed weapon, and if you, like me, don't really want to sacrifice the units that you've gone through a campaign with, that you've grown attached to, then recruiting a fresh face will definitely work out in your favor. You can use one of your loyal units if you prefer. Maybe you rose them from the ground up specifically to turn into a cursed weapon if you knew that these things existed. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. You engage with the dark arts the way you want to engage with the dark arts. I'm just saying I like to recruit a fresh unit. So I've come into the shop here, and we're going to be recruiting this archer, Folk. Now, the key thing to note about this recruitment: the elemental affinity of the character that you are going to be turning into a weapon will then translate into the elemental affinity of said weapon. I have a cursed spear that we're going to be using today in this video, and due to the extremely powerful lightning finisher of spears, I've decided to have this archer have the lightning affinity to synergize with that. The other thing to note is that the name of the weapon is going to come from the name of the individual. So, we're going to be renaming this man Placidusax. Another Elden Ring reference, if you're familiar. Seems appropriate here. We've now recruited Placidusax. What do we do from here? The important thing to note is that a cursed weapon's stats are wholly reliant on the class and the level, and as such stats, of the unit who is sacrificed. So ideally, if you want to get the most out of your cursed weapons before you get into, like, metagamey resetting units over and over and over to max out levels, feeding charms into them to max out the weapon, that type of thing, you at the very least want the character to be level 50. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And here we are. A bunch of level up charms and a few training battles later, we have Placidusax, the Dragoon, who is at level 50 and ready and willing to be sacrificed. I'm assuming willing. He hasn't said anything to the contrary, and, if he does anyway, well, too bad. You were here for one purpose, Placidusax, and you're going to see it out. As I previously mentioned, the stats of the unit that you sacrifice will determine the stats of the weapon that you create. So if you're swimming in stat-up charms, stat-up food, things like that, and you want to feed a bunch of them to a unit who you're going to sacrifice to turn into a cursed weapon, cool. You can buff its stats. Awesome. If you are someone who has access to, like, the Ogre Blade and wants to do some body swap shenanigans, that also is definitely a way to boost up cursed weapons, but that's very advanced. If you're watching this video, then you either are just doing so for fun and you don't need the help, or you're not at that point anyway, so we're not going to worry about that. Also, something that I should mention really quick, it's not just human characters that can be sacrificed. You can sacrifice lizard men, Vartans, skeletons, all that type of stuff. So long as they can equip the weapon that you're hoping to sacrifice them to, then you're all good. And that will actually have an impact on some of the bonuses that you'll see on your weapon. I'll have a full list of all of those bonuses, what affects what, in the description. It is a very handy list compiled by the fine folks over at Neoseeker that goes into all the details, more detail than I could possibly fit into this one video, about what confers what bonuses, class-wise, racial-wise, elemental-wise, all that type of stuff. So if you want to craft the perfect weapon, then you can consult that list to figure out exactly how to do it. Of course, if you are planning on using, again, a wingman or a lizard or something like that for this sacrificial process, it'll be a little bit more complicated. You won't be able to just go to a shop and recruit them like you would with a human. You'll have to go out into the field, recruit them, or make an undead unit, and kind of do things in a little bit more of a roundabout fashion, but it can be done. It can be done. Finally, the class that you level your unit in, especially if you're starting from level 1 with a human sacrifice, will matter because the growths will impact what stats you wind up in. It's not a huge difference, but going from 1 to 50, you can at least hone in on the stats that you want. So as a Dragoon, we're getting strength, vitality, dexterity, all the things we kind of want on a frontline spear. So with all of that discussion out of the way, there's something that's very important that we do. We need to take all of this equipment that Placidu Sax has and remove it. The only thing we want on him is the spear that will soon be bearing his name and his soul. Why is that? Any equipment that you have on when you sacrifice a unit to a weapon will add the RT that you had on them to the RT penalty of that weapon. So if we went through and threw like a helmet, some armor, some gloves, etc., as our RT is going up, that RT that's increased is going to equal an increased RT on the weapon. So you don't want any of this. It's not giving you any bonuses whatsoever. The only argument to be made would be a very late game item that actually gives you a reduction in RT. We're not here to talk about that right now. That's way advanced for this tutorial. So now that we have our weapon equipped, we're going to be going into a training battle and make ourselves a weapon so we can enter the Royal City of Heim. You can do this in any battle. It's not a huge deal. And we're going to be removing everyone except Placidu Sax and Denim. Turn off AI for everyone. You can see here Placidu Sax only has his spear equipped. And that's going to be all we need to do. Let's go. When we get into the battle, the first thing that we're going to be doing is using the Snapdragon effect, and, well, you'll see what winds up happening there. Seeing as how he doesn't have any equipment other than the spear, Placidu Sax gets to move first, and would you look at that? Snapdragon. A secret and forbidden art that seals the heart and soul of a single target within a weapon. Oh, that sounds good to me as a practitioner of the dark arts, don't you know? And there it is. He's gone. Interesting that, isn't it? Now I just wait for it to become Denim's turn, and we leave. Simple as that. Whoever would have thought that it would be so easy to sacrifice someone body, mind, and soul to create a weapon of unimaginable power? And yet it is. Only in Tactics Ogre can you achieve such depths of depravity, you know what I'm saying? And God, I love it. It's certainly fun to imagine going into a training battle with some of the finest that Heim has to offer to train the forces of the Resistance, only to see Commander Denim himself and one other soldier appear, the soldier to lift a weapon above their head, and in a flash of black-purple magic, vanish. Denim bows his head and goes on his way, and they're all left very confused, like they just witnessed something truly accursed. So now let's go over here to Yunin. Obviously, Yunin here is a crossbow wielder for me, but that's okay. He can still equip the spear for the sake of demonstration. And there it is. Placidu Sax. Look at the stats on that baby. Let's throw that on. And we'll just compare to, say, this Flame Lance. Woohoo! A little bit of a difference there. As you can see, we are getting an HP bonus, an RT bonus, an MP bonus, strength and magic bonus, and then just stat bonuses in literally every stat across the board. Let's look at the Placidu Sax here. It has 19 piercing damage, 18 electric damage, 18 dragon effectiveness. We can see that we inherited our dragon effectiveness from being a Dragoon. This is why the class that you're using to inherit stats onto a weapon is important, because that will change depending on what class it is that you have. The elemental affinity we discussed came from Placidu Sax's element, and it has counterattack type 3. Pretty good. It's giving 9 to every stat across the board. It has 0 weight and an RT cost of 39. It's the same as other high-level spears, but seeing as how it doesn't actually have any weight to it, we're still considerably faster when using it. Now, of course, again, Yunin is a Fire Element Dragoon who is using crossbows, so this won't be useful for him, but I can think of one candidate who would very much enjoy having this. Where is Guillaume? It's been a while since we used him. There he is. A Lightning Element Rune Fencer. Seems like it'll be pretty good. So let's take that off Yunin. and throw it on Guillaume. And he now has the perfect weapon. It's increasing his magic, so his summons and his other elemental magic will be more powerful. It's got an electric element to synergize with his own element and to synergize with his electro finisher that you have on spears. And it's just making him faster and more lethal in general, which of course means that he'll be able to cast more Boon of Swiftness. He'll get more Conserve MP if he's taking more turns. It's going to be a good time all around. And that, my friends, is how you make a cursed weapon. Again, I'll have linked in the description box below the full list of inheritable traits for cursed weapons depending on race and class and stats and all that type of good stuff. Check it out. If you have a particular cursed weapon that you're looking to make into a useful tool for one of your allies, that's going to be the resource that you want to use. Thank you to all of the Tactics Ogre fans in the community over on Neoseeker for putting stuff like that together for all of us to use, because it is incredibly helpful. That said, that's pretty much all there is for this one. If you have any further questions about cursed weapons or anything like that at all, feel free to ask in the comments. If you have any insight into my process or any notes to make for other people who are going to be making cursed weapons, drop it there as well. Or you can join the Discord and talk about it in the Tactics Ogre channel there as well. With all of that said, thank you all so much for watching. I do very much appreciate it. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.